Welcome to the 31st week of this year's In Times Like These recap. Now let's get into this, starting with Zeke Franklin, who grudgingly informs his older sister Quinlan that he told Nichelle that he's still watching X-rated videos, fearing that he'll lose Nichelle forever. Quinlan suggests that all he needs to do is give Nichelle space and time, encouraging her brother to use that time to get the help he needs to quit the addiction. Yet Zeke denies being addicted, but Quinlan reminds Zeke that watching X-rated videos won't encourage him to love Nichelle the way she deserves to be loved. Zeke informs his sister that addicts always find a way to get back to their addiction, walking off as he fears that he would only make Nichelle's life miserable. Heidi Russo arrives at her son Ben Russo's office, asking him if he dropped Quinlan since she and Gianni exposed her on national TV. Ben tells Heidi how his relationship with Quinlan isn't and has never been any of her concern. Because of how toxic Quinlan is, Heidi knows that there's still a chance that being with a woman like that would cause him to relapse. Ben questions if Heidi wants Quinlan out of his life to preserve his sobriety or because Quinlan is the person she hates most in the world. Heidi makes it clear that she'll never forgive Quinlan for almost destroying her marriage and almost destroying Ben's life. Ben questions if Heidi will never forgive herself for the damage she did to her own marriage. She admits that she won't, stating that she and Gianni are working things out, but can't be at peace if she knows that Ben is still in love with Quinlan and willing to keep her in his life. Ben tells his mother that whatever happens in his relationship with Quinlan will be up to him and not up to Heidi. Before Heidi walks out, she tells her son that she trusts him to make the right decision when it comes to Quinlan. At Theodosia's palace, when Finnegan Burke points out that it seems like something is bothering Harley Drake, she flashes back to finding out that Finnegan's ex-wife, Dr. Terry Murphy, and Harley's son, Alan Russo, are sleeping together. Lying, Harley tells Finnegan that when she confronted Terry, his ex-wife suggested that Alan must feel bad for her, like he feels bad for his uncle Gianni. Continuing to lie, Harley states how it's the only thing that makes sense, sadly telling Finnegan that his affair with Heidi hurt a lot of people. Suddenly, Finnegan is troubled to hear shocking news about his son Keeve. Outside of the mall, after discovering that Keeve Burke is her stalker, Vanessa Dorval is troubled that her brother's friend would torture her for so long. Keeve claims that he was the one who was hurt when she told Yulisa that she was being stalked when he was only trying to express his love. Vanessa remembers that being a private conversation in her room, remembering the teddy bear, troubled that he has been watching her much longer. Just as Keeve tries to explain, she screams. Suddenly, Max Russo shows up, shoves Keeve and tells him to get away. Keeve is arrested, then Max holds on to Vanessa, assuring her that it's over. She's troubled by the fact that Keeve has watched her in the privacy of her own room for months and didn't know, apologizing for not believing him. Max comforts Vanessa, promising to help her get through this. At the Dorval estate, Vanessa is being comforted by her parents and her grandfather Raymond after discovering what Keeve has done. Jeremiah Dorval checks in on his son JJ, who feels guilty for allowing Keeve into the family's life. Jeremiah assures his son that he's not responsible for Keeve's actions. Finnegan is furious with Keeve for everything he did. Then Terry arrives at the house, scolding Keeve for his actions and scolding Finnegan for keeping their son from facing the consequences of his actions. To keep things from getting worse, Finnegan demands that Keeve go to his room. Then Finnegan tells Terry how this is why she should have never filed for sole custody. Appalled, Terry feels like if she did file for sole custody, then Keeve would have never gotten this far. Finnegan reminds his ex how they had joint custody of Keeve all summer, adding that she didn't seem to notice Kieva's worrying behavior. Suddenly, Isidore Russo appears, stating how unacceptable it is that Keeve went after his nephew Max. Finnegan tells Isidore that Keeve's actions were pranks gone wrong. Not accepting this excuse, Isidore tells Finnegan that his son is an obsessed psychopath who needs to be punished for going after a Russo. Before leaving, Isidore reminds Finnegan and Terry that Heidi is the law. warning them that she'll come at Kiev with full force for coming after Max. Alan Russo sends a text to his lover Terry about Kiev, asking her to call when she can. Max enters the room, telling his cousin that he usually doesn't see him stressed out. The answer which Alan gives Max is that he's stressed about his situation with Kiev. Even though Alan doesn't find himself feeling bad for Kiev, he expresses how bad he feels for Terry, having a son who's a psychopath. When Max expresses how Kiev might not have been able to stalk Vanessa in the first place if his parents paid close attention to him, Alan snaps that Kiev is responsible for his own actions. Feeling stunned by Alan's response, Max assures Alan that he knows that Kiev is responsible for his own actions, but points out that Kiev's parents bought him equipment, feeling like they should have monitored it. Alan points out that it's not like Kiev's parents knew their son would turn out to be crazy. Max agrees, but points out that Kiev is crazy, and because of that, his parents will be forced to see their only son head off to prison. Udell Mitchell arrives at Owen Grant's office, informing the assistant district attorney that upon hearing that since Wanda is no longer friends with him, he hopes Owen will finally leave Wanda alone. Owen assures Udell that if Wanda wants him to stay away, then he'll respect her request. Udell tells Owen that he hasn't proven himself to be trustworthy in his eyes, explaining that as Wanda's husband, he needs to ensure that Owen will keep his word. Upon hearing Udell claim the role as Wanda's husband, Owen states that he's annoyed that Udell uses that term as if Wanda was his first choice as a wife. Aggravated, Udell tells Owen that he chose Wanda and Wanda chose him, reminding him that their marriage lasted for years. Owen responds by stating how the marriage almost didn't last, since Udell couldn't find himself able to forgive Wanda for the secret she kept about Elvira and Devante. Owen tells Udell that he has plenty he could say, but out of respect for Wanda, he won't. Concerned, Udell asks Owen if Wanda is hiding anything else from him. Since Udell seems to enjoy bragging about being Wanda's husband, Owen questions why Udell would even doubt his wife. Fed up with Owen, Udell expresses how glad he is that Wanda dropped Owen as a friend, calling Owen a manipulative parasite. Owen feels like Udell is doing the manipulation, keeping Wanda only because she was second best. Unfazed by Owen's comments, Udell tells Owen to enjoy his life, as Udell enjoys the rest of his life with Wanda, walking out. Isabel Torres tells Nichelle how she notices that she and Zeke seem to be keeping their distance, wondering what's going on. Nichelle tells her mother that she's not willing to speak about it, promising that she won't let her issues with Zeke affect her work. Once Isabel walks off, Nichelle's boyfriend Zeke Franklin approaches her, claiming that he's not addicted to X-rated videos. Nichelle goes on to ask Zeke if he stopped watching X-rated videos after their conversation. The excuse he has is that he's been watching it since he was a kid, stating that he doesn't watch it to hurt her, but out of habit. She asks Zeke if he wants to hurt her, then he tells Nichelle how she knows he doesn't want to. Nichelle points out how actions are stronger than words, wondering how they could continue to have a relationship if he refuses to get rid of the issue that's tearing them apart. All Zeke asks is that Nichelle give him time to get out of the habit. Nichelle assures Zeke that he'll give him all the time he needs, but he needs to admit the actual issue. Zeke tells Nichelle that she can't see him as an addict, since he knows that addicts don't change, warning her that she wouldn't be living a happy life, but assures her that he could make her happy. Nichelle tells Zeke that she's certain that Zeke will have a tough battle to face, telling him that all he needs to do is admit his problem and put his pride aside by getting help, walking away from him. JJ is at the mall with Yulisa Torres, who asks him how Vanessa is doing. He tells Yulisa how troubled Vanessa is, still feeling regret for allowing Kiev into his life. Yulisa tries to tell JJ that he shouldn't blame himself. Even though he'd been told not to, JJ can't help it, remembering that Yulisa warned him and Vanessa about Kiev from the very start. Then JJ spots Yvette Mitchell and confronts her. Yvette states that she knew nothing about what Kiev was doing. Angered, since he doesn't believe her, JJ demands that Yvette stop lying. Yvette is adamant that she had no idea how sick Kiev was, and that he was stalking Vanessa, assuring JJ that if she had any idea, then she would have stayed away. This causes JJ to ask if she would have stayed quiet, since she wants to see other people as miserable as she is. Feeling like she heard enough, Yulisa pulls JJ away from Yvette. Before Yulisa follows JJ, Yvette tells Yulisa that she truly does hope that Kiev pays for the pain he put Vanessa through, wishing that she could be of more help. When Yulisa meets up with JJ, she asks him why he snapped like that. JJ apologizes, stating that he's going crazy over Kiev taking his kindness for weakness. Alan meets with Terry in her office at the hospital, telling her that they need to discuss Kiev. Terry tells Alan that what happens with her son doesn't concern him. Alan reminds Terry that her son threatened his cousin's life, stating that it concerns him and affects their relationship. Since Alan needs to know how the two of them are to move forward, Terry suggests that they do so by ending the affair. Alan pleads with Terry not to make that an option. Terry goes on to state that if she had kept her attention on Kiev and not Alan, then she could have been aware of her son's actions and kept it from going as far as it did. Sympathizing for what Terry is going through, Alan tries to assure her that what Kiev did is not her fault. Even though Terry understands that Kiev is responsible for her own actions, she states that she was responsible for ensuring that he wouldn't take a dark path, but failed. Alan tells Terry that she's not a failure, feeling like she did the best she could. In the police station, Finnegan asks his lover Harley Drake to defend Kiev to ensure that he doesn't serve prison time. Harley is hesitant, then Heidi enters Finnegan's office. Finnegan asks Heidi to leave since he's in the middle of something. Heidi senses that Finnegan is trying to ask Harley to be Kiev's lawyer, asking Harley if she feels comfortable defending the boy who terrorized her son's cousin. Harley reminds Heidi that everyone is entitled to be represented in court, but Heidi is still annoyed that Harley is still considering to defend Kiev. Finnegan states that he doesn't agree with it either, feeling like Kiev needs to get help, and not prison time. Heidi tells Finnegan that Kiev knows right from wrong, calling Kiev a sociopath. Harley reminds Heidi that she's not a psychiatrist, explaining that they can have this conversation in court. Baffled, Heidi tells the both of them to prepare for a battle they won't be able to win. Once Heidi leaves, Finnegan asks Harley if she was serious about defending Kiev. Harley agrees as long as Kiev pleads guilty and they can get him help and get him to serve community service. When Quinlan Franklin enters Pacho Torres' office at Global News Press, he asks Quinlan if she finally decided whether to accept his offer or not to share her side of the story regarding her affair with Johnny Russo. Before she agrees to anything, Quinlan makes her terms, then asks for a contract. As soon as Pacho shows her that he has a contract drawn up, Quinlan is hesitant, asking her boss how the network will respond if she doesn't receive a positive reception. Even though Pacho is certain that Quinlan will win the public with her story, she points out how they both know that there's a chance the public could hate her. Pacho tells Quinlan that she doesn't have to agree, reminding her that he's only trying to make it up to her for creating the mess she's in. Eventually, she agrees to sign the contract. Lorenzo Russo is met by Vivian Jones, unaware that she's his illegitimate daughter, asks him how his family is handling the Kiev situation after having to deal with the recent scandal. Lorenzo informs Vivian that Finnegan has asked Harley to defend Kiev. This causes Vivian to ask her father if he thinks that Kiev has a chance to get away with what he's done. Lorenzo doubts it since Kiev has a lot of evidence against him, believing that a judge would be incompetent if they allow Kiev to avoid prison time. Since Kiev is a child, Vivian states that a judge might be sympathetic towards Kiev and allow him to have a second chance. If Kiev is given a second chance, Lorenzo is certain that Kiev will cause more damage. He goes on to tell Vivian how sick Kiev is to not only threaten Max with a knife, but to send Max Elvera's gruesome crime scene photos, which are photos he never wanted him or Alan to see since seeing it in person messed Ben up. Vivian reminds Lorenzo that Ben was a child and that Max and Alan are much older. Regardless, Lorenzo tells Vivian how that gruesome scene will stick with him for as long as he lives, certain that it's true for the rest of the family. This causes Vivian to ask Lorenzo if he and Clarice talk about it often. He admits to talking about Elvira often, but the two avoid speaking about the night they lost their only daughter. Max arrives at the Dorval estate, checking in on Vanessa. She tells Max how she's still shaken up by Keith's actions, asking Max how he's doing. He informs Vanessa that Finnegan is getting a lawyer for Keith to keep him from getting punished. Vanessa is troubled by Finnegan's actions, stating that it's clear that Keith committed a number of crimes and should be punished for them. Max is certain that Keith will go down for his crimes. As for Vanessa, she wonders if Keith doesn't care about the law and proceeds to go after them both. Since Keith didn't do anything with the knife, Max feels like Keith is too much of a coward to hurt anyone. Despite that, Vanessa tells Max how delusional Keith is, stating how he kept telling her that all of the crazy things he did was out of love, fearful of what else Keith might do. Max encourages Vanessa not to live in fear and to trust that God will get them through this trial. Once again, Vanessa apologizes for allowing Keith into her life when they moved into Valley Park and pushing Max away. Max admits how annoying he is, stating that he should have approached her differently, promising not to hold anything against her and to stick beside her. As the two look into one another's eyes, they kiss. While Wanda Mitchell is at the Mitchell estate, she gets a call from Owen, checking to see if she blocked his number. Since he sees that his number wasn't blocked, Wanda tells Owen that this is the last time they'll speak on the phone. Before Wanda ends the call, Owen asks Wanda if Udell told her that he visited him the other day. This is news to Wanda, causing her to question what Udell needed to speak with Owen about. When Owen informs Wanda that Udell wanted him to stay away. Owen promises that he'll stay away, but is certain that she doesn't want that after what they shared. Wanda tells Owen that they shared nothing. Owen reminds Wanda that they kissed more than once. Interrupting, Wanda tells Owen that one kiss should have been enough, then ends the call, unaware that her daughter Yvette heard the entire conversation. Just as Heidi makes a call to Jeremiah, planning to inform him that Finnegan convinced Harley to defend Keith, Yvette shows up. Heidi promises to call Jeremiah back, asking Yvette why she's at her office. Yvette admits to lying about Max. Can't get enough of the crazy world of In Times Like These? Then, treat yourself to a binge watch of In Times Like These. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You're not ready for what's to come, but tune in anyways.